Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Todd. Thank you again for joining the conversation today. Today, I'm talking with Catherine Auman, a licensed therapist whose work kind of bridges traditional psychotherapy, transpersonal psychology, Tantra, relationships, psychedelic integration. So, Catherine, thank you very much for joining the show today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Me too.
So,
thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah. So tell me a little bit about what got you interested in Tantra and sexuality. And in particular, it's kind of like a healing modality, because it looks like you've been into this in this area for a long, long time.
Well, yeah, Todd, like a lot of people, probably a lot of your listeners, I had a traumatic childhood. And so a lot of my life was involved in trying to heal myself. So I was in therapy very early, and I was reading all kinds of books. I've always been a bookworm, and exploring not only how to heal myself, but spirituality and all kinds of things. And my relationships weren't, like a lot of people who have trauma in childhood, my relationships weren't particularly great. So that was very important to me. I really wanted to learn how to have good relationships with others and with myself and everything. So it was just this personal and spiritual growth path that persisted still to today. I became very interested in it as part of why I became a therapist, because I was sitting so long in a therapy chair. I thought, maybe I'll learn how to sit on the other chair.
Right.
And sexuality itself, I was in a bookstore in Venice, California in my 20s, and I saw this book. It said sex is spiritual, and I just went, whoa, that seems true to me. I hadn't had that much sexual experience at that time, but it just seemed like there was always something going on there that we weren't being told. I didn't really think sex was just this sort of slam bam, thank you, ma'am kind of thing. I thought there was something deeper. So I really got intrigued with that, and that set me off on a lifelong journey of finding out what have the best minds in the world have to say about that.
It's interesting. I too really set off on a journey to try to understand sex and sexuality fairly early on. I think a lot of that for me came around some of my own childhood trauma and a lot of internalized shame around sexuality. I think there was a part of me that was really seeking to understand myself a bit more, but feeling this kind of mix of guilt and shame, almost like I was afraid to read about it, like I was doing something wrong. But too, I think there was a part of me that was just drawn to explore that as a way of trying to figure out how to heal where I was wounded.
Absolutely. I think that sex goes very deep. It uncovers our basic longings and our basic desires to love and connect with a partner or partners, whatever our path may be. And I think when we've had sexual trauma in childhood, that definitely leads towards, I want to heal this part of myself. We grow up, whether we were raised in a church or not, we grow up in a culture that's very conflicted about sex. On the one hand, they're having these blatant sexual images and peekaboo nudity, and a favorite plot is women getting raped and murdered and the men tracking down the perps. And, there's very conflicted messages about sex. Very rarely do you see ordinary people just being affectionately sexual towards each other. This isn't considered interesting. And so we grow up in this fishbowl, this culture where sex is very confusing. We're told we don't have the right kind of bodies. This used to be, in our day, this was mostly women, but I think now men are getting it just as much as women. Your body is not right. And now with the advent of AI, it's if you haven't been altered by AI or Photoshop, you definitely have the wrong body. So we grow up with these poor relationships to ourselves, our bodies, our sexuality, our self-love. And this puts many of us on a journey for healing.
It's so interesting, isn't it? This cultural anxiety around sexuality in general. I way back in the day when I was much younger, I was very interested in getting into film and doing filmmaking. And I've done a lot of video production throughout my days and done a couple short films. But I remember reading this statement. I don't remember who it said. It was some famous filmmaker. And he said, if you hack somebody to death with a chainsaw, the movie will get a PG rating, but if you show a breast, it'll get an R rating.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Isn't that crazy? And in Europe, it's almost the opposite, where there's so much more just openness around sexuality and where violence is seen as much more offensive to the senses, that there's almost been this switch in the United States. And I wonder if part of that is from our kind of our Puritan heritage, where there's just this, Eve was weak and brought in, the downfall of mankind, and sex is something that is, an impulse of the devil in this lower part, sense of self. And I don't know how many people actually believe that today, but it seems like some of that messaging veneer still affects how we interact with our own sexuality and even conversations around sexuality.
Oh, definitely. After working on healing myself and helping other people heal in these areas for many years, I still find little bits of it cropping up. It's like, the brainwashing is so intense.
Even with yourself?
Even with myself, my husband and I, every once in a while go, wow, I just got this weird idea that, we'll be making love or something, and we'll go, oh, I just got this weird idea that you're supposed to be the initiator and I'm not. Or some of these really weird sexist ideas that we're way beyond them, but we notice them cropping up just a little bit in our psyche, that they're still not completely eradicated. So it's a long road. I mean, certainly you can heal yourself, and every little bit of healing you do makes your life better and better and better. But when you're on a path to continue healing, you'll still notice, wow, there's at the bottom of the onion, there's still some stuff here. After peeling off these layers, there's still some stuff from that.
That is kind of the deal with trauma, isn't it? That,
yeah.
We can know that whatever we're feeling is maybe misplaced. And, we could still get triggered. I mean, it still happens to me today too. And I mean, now I'm a bit more equipped with oh my God, I can recognize that's a trauma response, right? Or coming from some sense of woundedness. One of the challenges when, kind of early in a healing journey is, how do I interpret what I'm feeling or how I'm reacting, or, this sense of shame. Where's this, is this real? Is this accurate? How do people start figuring out what's good for me? What is a healthy step forward? How do I make sense out of the feelings that I have, some of the internal shame, or how do I set boundaries? How do I start on that journey?
Well, that's a big question. I think that the first place to start, whether you have a partner or not, is to start noticing how you have been set to dislike your own body, and how the culture is bombarding you with messages all the time. And it gets worse as you get older, that there's something wrong with your physical body or your physical appearance. I think we've made a little bit of progress in this, in that we're not as judgmental of people with larger bodies. We're not as judgmental of people, thank God, who aren't white. So we're making some progress, but the message is still very clear. Something's wrong with your body, so you need to buy these products to make you better. It's all this brainwashing that you need to buy stuff to make you better. If you can start spending some time with your own body, maybe be naked, maybe look at yourself in the mirror and try not to be judgmental. These are some exercises that I recommend to people that I've done myself, and it was horrifying when I started, but now I'm pretty much able to be calm and peaceful about it. I've spent time in spas and at the gym where you can be around other naked people and you can go, wow, none of us are perfect. We're just, look at all these vulnerable people. We all don't love our bodies, and look how beautiful we are, all different shapes and sizes. And this can start this process, especially if we've had physical trauma, of saying, I get to be the way I am. I can be a sexual person. I can be a beautiful person. I can relish being in this physical body. And again, this goes with that Puritan thing about there's something wrong with being in a body, because if you were enlightened, you would be in heaven. It's like, well, we're here now. Let's try to enjoy while we're here and worry about that later. So I think that first thing of trying to befriend your own body is a good place to start. And if you do have a partner, starting to befriend that person's body too.
And what would that look like? You know, if you were standing in front of a mirror, is it just a matter of just being present, or just looking at yourself and just being present with that and try not to make any judgment one way or the other?
Well, I think it is noticing your judgments.
Okay.
And then questioning where they come from. For example, I had one client recently who did this exercise, and we worked on her being able to say, I look like a person who enjoys food.
I think I'd fall in that category.
This or that. It's like, I really enjoy food. And that's what I look like. And that's very sensual. And that shows you have a sensual love of life. This is a positive thing.
Right.
You know, she doesn't really want to be like super, deny herself food and be super skinny like we're supposed to. So I think that this is a way to sort of notice what you've been told about yourself and then reinterpret it in a way that encourages you to go, I don't look like the cultural ideal, and that's okay with me. Because the cultural ideal is impossible.
For the vast majority of people. And, one of the things that you brought up was the whole idea of going to the spa and just being around other naked people. And it sounds kind of funny to say, but in a way, one of the ways that we kind of learn how to evaluate ourselves is by being around other people. And so we do this in communication and how we interact and, how do we make small talk and all of that. But we don't get that when it comes to our body. We don't have, throughout human history, human beings have been around a lot of other naked people. And there's just a sense of, all of these different shapes are all normal. So when I look at myself, there's not this sense that there's something about me that's bad, sick, or wrong, or freakish, or a failure. But when the only thing that we see tends to be these hyper curated ideal images that we're bombarded with day after day, there's just kind of no sense of how do I evaluate what's normal? Then we look at ourselves and, compare that to what we see. And we're like, clearly I don't look like that. There must be something wrong with how I look, or I'm failing in some way.
Exactly. And then we take that into our relationships. So we might be making love and we're thinking, oh, I look so awful, and I hope he doesn't notice my cellulite, and why isn't he like this or that? And it becomes, it really invades the bedroom and makes us not have as great of a loving experience as we could. And this is another reason that I and much greater minds than myself, such as Dr. John Gottman, the Gottmans, advocate for you want your partner to be your best friend. Because if you're making love with your best friend, they're probably less likely to worry about the fact that you just put on 5 pounds.
Right.
Or, So, but if you're trying to impress some hot thing that you picked up at the bar and you try to act like a porn star, you're going to worry a little bit more that you're not like the cultural ideal. But if you're with your best friend, they like you as you are. And that doesn't mean you want to not take care of yourself, but it does mean you're not going to be taking that intense self-judgment into the bedroom. Because, when we're with our best friends, we're like, I've just decided I like you as you are. I'm going to overlook whatever you think your faults are. With your best friend of the same sex or the opposite sex, you're like, I'm not really thinking about your flaws because I don't really think you have any. I'm your friend.
Well, and it's more like I'm engaging with the person. I'm not engaging with this, for lack of a better term, kind of bag of flesh, right? I mean, it's not this object. It's that I'm actually engaging with an individual who I care about. And it's like the form takes on less relevance in some ways.
Yes, absolutely. Because sex takes place on a holistic levels. It happens on the physical level, the emotional level, the heart-centered level, and for some of us on the spiritual level. So there's all kinds of things going on. And again, many people who were traumatized in childhood get stuck on the physical level, and I don't feel good about myself. And that's understandable, and healing is possible from that.
Well, and, not only do I not feel good about myself, but a lot of people who have experienced trauma, right, have this sense of being sexually vulnerable feels very unsafe.
Yes.
And it's like, I want to have sex. I want to be sexual. I want to be physically intimate. But there gets to be a point where as things move forward, suddenly I'm starting to, I can feel my body react either in, I'm starting to numb out, or I'm starting to panic and want to get out of there and want to pull away. Or I just, start to dissociate a bit, and for someone who's experienced some emotional trauma over and above kind of, getting over the judgment piece, how do you navigate through some of those other emotional reactions that come from being sexually traumatized?
Good question. We have some exercise in Tantra where we sit with a partner, someone that we're friends with, and it could be our significant other, or it could be someone that's doing an exercise with us, and we practice speaking as soon as it gets uncomfortable. So we might start a little G-rated massage. We say, when we practice saying, the closer you're getting to my heart or my genitals, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. Then you both stop and breathe together. Just in that moment. And you make it okay that you're having feelings because it's perfectly normal. Even people who weren't traumatized often will get this alert message because sex is very vulnerable and can be very deep. And so we just practice saying, let's just stop right now and notice I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, and breathe and look in each other's eyes and see, can I trust this person? Can I trust this person? Because trust is the basis of all relationships, all sexuality. And people who've been traumatized, their trust has been violated. So we're trying to establish in the present moment, we're trying to repair trust with somebody we can trust. So again, that might be our partner. That might be a good friend. That might be someone who's just agreed to do these exercises with us. And we practice saying, my trust is a little scary right now. Can we stop? We look at each other. Oh, I can trust you. Okay. We'll either stop for today or we'll go a little further. And then when you're actually trying to make love with someone, then you have practiced the skill of saying, whoa, let's just slow down a little bit. I'm starting to get scared a little bit. Let's just slow down. This is triggering some of my past stuff. Okay. perfectly happy to slow down. I don't want to do anything to violate you or scare you. I care about you. I may or may not be in love with you, but I care about you as a person. So yeah, let's take it easy. I used to do a tantric dating workshop, and I would have people practice saying to each other, how could I be more safe for you? How in this moment, these would be strangers meeting each other, and they go, how could I be more safe for you? And they go, you know what, if you just sit back a little bit more, I think I'd feel safer. Oh, okay. Sit back a little bit more. How could I be more safe for you? Let's just not talk for a minute. Let me feel how safe I feel with you. And I think it was a very good exercise that people could start off something so easy like that, of like, you could say to a partner who may have experienced trauma, how could I be more safe for you in this moment? I want to provide safety for you to heal, to be yourself, to learn more about yourself. And the unfortunate thing is, in this culture, we've turned sex into a performance that you're supposed to act a certain way and produce results of orgasm, and you're supposed to turn off your feelings and act like a porn star. And this isn't really, for most people, the most satisfying kind of experience. What we want to do is really trust this other person, so we can start by creating a trusting environment. You don't have to perform for me. You don't have to. If you don't orgasm, it's okay with me. I just want to be with you. I just want to hang out and see if we can nurture a sense of intimacy and closeness and trust.
I love that. And that sounds like just an incredible experience. If somebody wants to do that, and just thinking kind of practically about how you would do something like that, I would imagine that on the front end, there would have to be some conversation about, what is this experience going to be about, right? That this is going to be about an exploration into, like, becoming comfortable being in a sexually vulnerable place, and this is how we need to navigate through that. And kind of like I would imagine both people would kind of have to know beforehand and what the scope and how to communicate with each other if something is getting triggered or uncomfortable, and what the other person can do to show up in that moment in a healthy way.
Yeah, I just coincidentally released a book 2 days ago called Tantric Healing, which has some practices in it for sitting down with a partner and saying, hey, I'd like to heal my sexuality, or you want to come along for the ride? Will you help me? Can we create a safe environment so we can both heal our sexualities? Because the fact is, even if you didn't experience, as we were talking about earlier, even if you didn't experience overt sexual trauma in childhood, you experienced sexual trauma from living in this crazy culture we're in, telling you men are this and women are that, and I don't know, it's just very bizarre. It's not really two human beings just experiencing love and connection. So a couple or a person could decide, I really want to heal myself. I really want to experience. One of the things we did, I'm sorry, I just interrupted myself, but one of the things we did when I was in the ashram was we would sit down and women would tell men what they're scared about men, and men would tell women what they're scared about women. And when we would get together, women and saying, here's what I'm scared about women. And the men would say that to each other. And we would really just get that stuff out about, here's why I don't trust you. And these kinds of conversations are very healing. And you could that's a place you could start with your partner as well. You could say, I just want to tell you, I have all this ridiculous programming from the culture about what men are like, and you're not like that at all. It's funny because I'll talk on some of my videos about the vast majority of men I've met in my life are caring, loving beings. And why are men supposed to be embarrassed about that?
Right.
That's like really weird.
Right.
They're like and loving and taking care of their families and showing up, and they don't really know how to talk about their feelings, but they try because they know women want them to do that. And there's a few bad apples, of course, but that somehow men are supposed to make love, especially without feelings involved. It's like really very twisted.
It really is. And there was kind of this, I don't want to blame it all on John Wayne, but there is this whole kind of generation of this, Lone Ranger kind of, I'm a dude. I don't feel anything. I do everything. I have to be the superhero. And that's the only way that I can experience value in society. And so for a lot of men, there's like, if I'm, I've experienced some of this myself when I was growing up, right? I mean, you express some emotion and your friends, turn to you. It's like, take off your fucking skirt, man. And, man up kind of thing. And there's, and that messaging comes from women too.
Yes, it does.
I was in grad school, and this was so interesting. I was in grad school in clinical psychology, and there was a woman who was in there who was also a grad student in clinical psychology. And she was talking about how she and her fiance were at a movie, and during the movie, there was this very, poignant scene where her partner started to tear up a bit, and it made her very uncomfortable. And she was like, all of a sudden was like, oh my God, should I marry this guy? He seems kind of sensitive. And she recognized the insanity of that. She's like, why am I thinking that? But I think that there is this messaging that if you are, if you're a dude, right? Part of the being a dude is not being emotionally available. And I think that is really starting to change a lot. But I think that is still a very real thing that shows up in our sexual lives, because that emotional presence and communicating and checking in and all of those kinds of things, a lot of us, we don't have the language for. And there's like, I hope she's enjoying this. I hope that I'm kind of doing it right. I hope that this is a positive experience, but I don't know how to communicate. I don't know what to say. Right? I'm sure you've seen a lot of clients who struggle with that. What do you say to folks to help them kind of bridge that communication gap around being sensitive and being emotionally present and communicating during sex?
Well, I think this, again, is building your friendship, which, again, I got from the Gottmans, which is anything's wrong with the relationship, you go back to friendship building. And your listeners may or may not know that I love this quote. It blew my mind the first time I heard it. But the Gottmans found that 69% of people in relationships that are working said the friendship is the most important thing. This changed my thinking completely. And that's relationships that are working. And I thought, surely that's not men. Men are going to say sex. No, that was men. 69% of men in successful relationships say the friendship's the most important thing. And you think when we're dating, we're talking about, ew, they're in the friend zone. That means you're not attracted to them. It's like, there's something wrong there. So anyway, you go back to, in terms of this building communication, you go back to, I want to be friends with my partner. I'm not really behaving in a friendly way towards them during sex. I'm not wanting to hear their feelings or whatever is going on. I want to build that friendship and ability that you're safe with me to say whatever. So if you want to cry in a movie, you're safe with me. If you want to stop because you're getting a little close to your trauma, you are safe with me. This is a safe zone. You're safe with me. You can be whoever you are because I know you're not a bad person. And if you're a bad person, I shouldn't be with you. But I know you're not a bad person, and I want us both to grow. So we had a saying at the ashram, which was, we're spiritual brothers and sisters helping each other grow. I thought, wow, that's beautiful. A relationship towards anybody, actually, but especially a partner, of like, how are we going to grow? How are we going to have more beautiful sex if we don't start learning how to be friends and tell each other the truth? But we get in this performance culture where women are supposed to perform orgasm, men are supposed to act like John Wayne in bed. Your listeners may not know who John Wayne is, but we'll just say some super macho, no feelings guy like the Terminator or whatever, and go out blow people away and without any thought for feelings or anything. And we get into these roles in the bedroom, and then nobody's actually satisfied.
I have a question. So the whole friendship thing is intriguing and made me think, have you had people who are not necessarily engaged in a primary relationship or committed relationship, but are friends who decide to kind of go through a healing journey together, a sexual healing journey together, just being present with each other and going through sensual touch and engaging in sexual activity simply as kind of a therapeutic tool?
Yes, and in Tantra we call this practice partners.
Okay.
People are not necessarily looking for an emotional engagement at that time, but they are looking to be able to grow and talk about, the things we're talking about, like, I'm getting scared right now. Can you just hold me, or can we just stop and talk? Does this feel good? Does that feel good? Without having a sense of feeling like you have to perform sex, but you just want to be with this friend person who decided to grow together and practice telling each other the truth, so that when they do get in a primary relationship, they will have better skills. So that's not common, but it's possible. And I think for people who do it, it's very healing.
I mean, it sounds like that would be, that could be just an amazing experience, because there isn't necessarily, additional pressures for, kind of the emotional bonding and what is this going to mean about our relationship? What if you know what I mean? It can be just purely more about the healing. And if somebody wanted to do that, how would you interview a potential partner? I mean, how would you frame that? Maybe you wouldn't put something on Craigslist, right? I mean, how would you find somebody to go through that with, and what would that conversation look like? I mean, I guess this would be true with a friend, or even with a life partner. I mean, how do you open that conversation about just having some healing experiences around sexuality?
Well, I think it's first working on yourself and realizing this is something I want to do and I feel okay about, because there's obviously a lot of societal judgment on doing that kind of thing. Because the mainstream society is either you have to be spontaneously having wild sex with someone you just met, or, with no commitment, or you need to be a committed partner doing it with the lights out, preferably heterosexual and in a bond and, not enjoying it too much. So those are the kind of options that were offered. And so for people to say, I really want to heal my sexuality and I want to be open about it and I want to get a friend to help me do that, you have to be willing to understand that most people are not going to support that idea. But here where we're talking about it, where we think sexual healing is great, again, it's practicing with yourself that you feel okay that you want to do that. Because if you're not feeling okay about it, you're going to attract somebody with that who's not clear also. You get very clear that this is the type of relationship I'm looking for. And then you would approach your friend and ask. And be willing for them to say no. Because they might feel, for example, I know men who've said, no, I couldn't do that without falling in love. And everyone thinks, that would be the woman. Maybe, maybe not. I would say I can't really have sex without falling in love. And I don't want to risk my feelings with you. Okay, then you ask again. But again, it's getting really clear inside yourself. I want to heal this part of myself. I think, Todd, that's something you and I have both had as a really life guiding purpose in our lives. We want to heal ourselves. And I'm sure your listeners are like that too. It's like, I want to heal myself. Very important for me. And I'm willing to take some risks to do that. And this person might say no, and the next person might say yes. And within your own relationship, if you're partnered, you say, I was listening to this podcast, I was reading this book, I want to enter into a sexual healing journey with you. Would you be willing to do that with me? I don't know. What would that mean? Well, what it means right now is this talk we're having. I want to heal myself. I don't always feel myself when we're making love. I want to feel more myself. I feel sometimes that we're not emotionally engaged when we're making love. I would like to experience that. So whatever's true for you, you would risk saying it and going for it and wanting it.
Well, so there are kind of two parts of that seem really critical, right? Is that first, that sense of clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And that clarity can even be an accomplishment even in and of itself when you've experienced some trauma, right? Because, things are like, what do I really think? What do I really believe? Who am I? Where do I belong? All of those things are struggles, right? But I think that clarity around this is the experience I want to create. I may not know every answer for how that's going to unfold, but at least I have some clarity around the intent and a willingness from what you're saying is just, let's just start taking some action, just, getting out of park and just moving forward, even if it's really, really slow, as long as we're doing it with intention, with some clarity, we can create some real healing in a way that then can really translate into many parts of our lives, right? When it comes to
every
sexuality.
little bit of healing that you do adds up. And then one day you just wake up and you go, wow, it's all been worth it.
I'm a different person.
I'm the person I always wanted to be.
Right. Or at least closer.
Closer.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the stuck points for people, do you think? I mean, that kind of keeps them from being able to move forward and healing in some way. What keeps people stuck?
I think that what keeps us stuck is, as I said before, cultural messages that our bodies aren't right, and not pushing back and going, who are you to tell me my body's not right? I think that we get stuck because we're afraid to tell our truth, because we've been mocked, ridiculed, shut down, told that our truth isn't valuable. We spend a lot of our lives in environments where our truth is not welcome. For example, the work world doesn't want people's truth, and that's okay because you're there to do business. We don't want to be emoting in the work world. That wouldn't be positive. We're not asked to speak our truth in school. We're asked to, sit down and shut up. And then, we're in these environments, then suddenly we have our clothes off and we're supposed to suddenly know how to tell the truth. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. We haven't had any training or any validation for sharing our truth. So often with close friends, we've been able to speak our truth. For women, maybe not so often for guys, because sometimes their closest friend is just someone they watch sports with. Sometimes in 12-step programs, sometimes journaling, sometimes in therapy. Therapy, a lot of times, is how people learn to tell their truth because they're in a safe environment where their truth is not going anywhere. And they can discuss with a therapist, is this normal? Is this okay to say? The therapist goes, yeah, or, that's a sign that something deeper might be going on. So there's places we can practice learning how to know our truth. And then it's still scary when we're with a partner sometimes to say, this is my truth. I'm not really enjoying this so much. I think I'd like to try something different, or whatever we might want to say. So I think those are two places where people really get hung up, is not being able to appreciate our own bodies and then not being able to speak our truth.
It's interesting. It made me think of a funny story. When I had my first clinical supervisor, And I asked him, I'm like, all right, so what do I say when a client first comes in? And he's like, no, just welcome them. And I'm like, no. Give me a sentence of words that can come out of my mouth that I could use. Because I think, a lot of times, people are said, well, speak your truth or communicate better, set a boundary. And it's like, well, if I knew how to do that, I wouldn't be struggling. And so how do I figure out, how do I develop that language? And you talked about therapy. And one of the nice things about working with a therapist is oftentimes we have language that we can give to somebody that then allows them to go, okay, that's how you say that. Or put words to an experience that they may not have been able to put words to before. And that happens oftentimes in 12-step programs as well. I've been sober for 42 years through,
awesome.
Thank you. Almost died very, very young. But that's another thing in 12-step programs where we can learn some of that language. But what's a way that if we don't even kind of know what it looks like to speak truth, or what it looks like to even set a boundary, what are some of the ways that we can figure some of that out? Aside from reading your books, which I'll put a link in below, but like, what are some of the ways that we can develop some of that language, or figure out what does it look like to set a boundary or to express an expectation?
I think a really good phrase that you can use when you're in partnership or you're getting to know somebody is, oh, tell me more about that. What else? Because you're inviting the other person you're letting the other person know that you're safe and that you're interested in their experience. You're inviting truth. So someone may say something like, I feel a little bit scared when I do that. And you go, oh, really? Tell me more. If you feel like it, what else? And really express an interest. And this way you get used to being, first of all, encouraging another person to feel safe in your presence. You also listen for what other people's internal experience is, and you start going, my experience isn't that different. The fact that I feel scared in those situations is actually pretty normal. It's not something wrong with me. You hear this, you do this in 12-step a lot too. You hear people and you go, wow, I thought I was a weirdo because I felt like that. I'm not a weirdo at all. Everybody's a weirdo.
Right.
I'm in good company.
Right.
Other people are scared about in that situation. I thought that was just me. I'm not weird at all. This is the human condition. So you get used to, so with this simple phrase of just being curious and just saying, oh, can you tell me more about that? You have people, you're encouraging people to share their truth and setting up an environment where your truth will hopefully be welcome as well. I often teach this to men, couples. Just encourage the other person. Let them know you're safe if you want to say some more. My husband and I use this a lot. I'll hear my husband trying to express something. He doesn't really have the words for it. I'll just wait and I'll go, well, what else? Oh, please tell me more about that. And it gives him time and space to collect his thoughts and figure it out. And he does the same for me. And we learn how to go deeper with each other that way.
I really like that a lot, especially that what else? And that, the say more or help me understand. One of the things that I see a lot, and I'm sure you've seen this too, is there's a tendency sometimes when we see our partner struggling to want to go in and rescue them. It's like, oh, no, you're safe. You're okay. It'll be all right, and, or to say something in the hopes to make them feel better. And what it ends up doing is just kind of collapsing the space that they were just trying to, reach out and articulate what was going on. And, so I really like that. And that makes sense. Because what you're saying is that this is just something that if we're given space, safe space to try some things and to just, even if we speak imperfectly, we can eventually kind of figure out where those words are to kind of set our boundaries or communicate what we're feeling or what we're thinking. So I like that.
Exactly.
Like that.
And I think it's also what you said too about being able to do it imperfectly and to allow our partners to be imperfect and just realize this is human nature and we're on a path. We're on a path to grow. And if we stop growing or if we try to pretend that we're already finished, we're sucking the life out of our relationship, out of our joy. We're just kind of museum pieces on a shelf rather than saying, I want to stay alive. I want to stay on my cutting edge. I want to do anything I can to experience more life, more love, better sex. And better sex doesn't necessarily mean in the porn sense. It means closer and more loving and deeper and more spiritual. I want more, and I trust my appetite. This is another thing about our Puritan heritage is we're not supposed to have appetite for life. We're supposed to just wear gray clothes, and I wear gray clothes, but I mean just gray clothes and be very unhappy about life. I was raised in this Calvinist kind of, if you enjoy life too much, you're sinning. And so we're afraid to really let our appetite go. I just want more. I don't need to buy more stuff. I want more personal growth. I want more love. I want more connection with my partner. I want the relationship I've always dreamed of. And guess what? That's going to take work. We're also sold this idea that Tinkerbell's going to come sprinkle fairy dust on us a lot, just meet the perfect person. It's like, for some of us that's happened and those relationships didn't turn out very well. The ones that turn out well is where you keep trying to learn better communication, better closeness. I want to work on myself. I want to heal myself. If you have two people doing that, you're going to get to that perfect soulmate relationship you always dreamed of. But it takes being willing to be on your cutting edge, learn more, ingest more, eat more, not necessarily food, but it could be food. Just maybe you want to have the body where you look like you enjoy food and just keep growing, and then by growing like this, you can grow into your perfect soulmate relationship with somebody you're with or somebody you're yet to meet.
Right. That ability to evolve is the key, right?
Right.
It's the couples where one or both partners or together they can't evolve. Those are the ones that fall apart. And relationships, even if you have two partners that are struggling with some stuff, if they can evolve together, then they can develop a relationship that is absolutely fantastic. Even if they're both fairly wounded people, they can create an awesome life.
I know you, I'm sure this is something you teach. Actually, wounded people are the ones who have the most potential to grow because we're so uncomfortable.
Right.
We want to get better. And we often grow beyond what people who just had a happy childhood don't have to work on themselves. So they can be just happy with their lives. And we're so uncomfortable. We're like, I need to grow and grow and grow and grow. And then we end up going, wow, I did better than my friends.
Isn't that true? And I will say that there's a part of me sometimes that envies the people who just aren't always struggling with stuff. I'm like, God, why does this have to be so hard all the time? But I completely agree. So yeah. I have before we move on, for somebody who really has not experienced what a really great sex life with their partner looks like, can you just kind of, in your opinion, like what does that picture even look like? How would somebody know if they're there, or what's a model to kind of look at and see kind of where's my life different, so that I have some idea of a goal to reach, to work toward? Great
question, because people don't know what's possible. First of all, imagine sex where you're not feeling insecure or you're not feeling like you're doing it wrong. Imagine that it's really about love. There's been some very interesting studies about sexual mindfulness, which is really a first step for people in terms of learning how to have loving sex. These studies have actually shown that they help women who don't know how to orgasm. After people practice sexual mindfulness, they feel better about their partners. So what that means is, just like you practice mindfulness meditation, where you're just being in the present moment, feeling your body, not being judgmental about what's going on around you. You're just like, oh, I'm here right now. In this moment, everything's okay. In fact, when I look outside, I see, oh, the beautiful trees. Just going to relax into that. I'm not going to think how the trees should be greener or the rock should be harder. I'm just going to be with what is. And what they're finding is people who bring this kind of mindfulness attitude to sex, I'm not going to worry about I should have a different body. My partner should be doing it differently. We should be coming faster or slower. Or I'm just going to be here in the present moment with my partner. We're just rubbing each other's arms. That's what's happening right now. We're relaxing, being in a safe space with each other. And this is like a first step towards making love in a way that's actually feels connecting. It doesn't feel like your mind is trying to run the show. You're just actually learning how to enjoy being in this present moment with your partner, with yourself, facing your fears of intimacy, which we all have. Dr. David Schnarch said that intimacy is more frightening for people than death. And he wasn't talking about just you and me. He was talking about everybody. So you go, oh, I'm feeling scared to get closer right now. That's perfectly human and normal. And as you can progress in being able to be mindfully present with your partner in a sexual situation, you can actually get later on into places where you start having what I call psychedelic sex, which is like suddenly your body starts making love for hours, which you didn't expect. And you're like in the presence of God or whatever. So these kinds of experiences are possible that we haven't been taught about. But the first step is let's learn to be fully present, non-judgmental of ourselves or the other person in a mindful way, and just be present with what's happening. So a lot of times when we touch, we're like, well, that's not getting me to orgasm. So that's not the right touch. It's like, let's just enjoy that touch and go, oh, my arm is being touched right now. How could I enjoy that more? Just sink into that. So one thing tantric people will do is just go, I'm just going to totally enjoy that little touch there on my wrist. Instead of thinking, when are we getting onto it? When are we getting onto the good stuff? This is the good stuff. So we start cultivating this sense that this spills over to the rest of our life of like, wow, this is the good stuff. It's not necessarily in the future. I can see this is ringing a bell for you.
Oh, it totally makes sense because, you know, what you're describing is the whole key is that there may not be like one outcome that would be, something that everyone should aspire to, but more success lies kind of in the process of being present. And the goal is really being just fully present with whatever sensual experience is happening in the moment and remaining fully embodied with that without like getting, starting to like look at the clock and like, when are we going to get to this? Because then we're pulling ourselves out of the experience.
Yeah.
Right. We're pulling ourselves out of the experience, and the key is to just be fully present in that experience. And when we can do that from, what you're describing, it's like, that's when we can start opening up some deeper sexual experiences that we may not have been able to experience otherwise.
Yeah, you may not even ever imagine. So you create a space for sex to reveal its secrets to you. And it can't do that if you're always running the show. And the way we've been taught to run the show isn't really very effective anyway, because we aren't really getting what we want. Most people aren't getting what they want out of sex. They're told they're supposed to be enjoying it like porn stars are pretending they're enjoying it. And they don't have that experience. So they're like, what's wrong with me? I should try harder. And actually, from my experience, the key is to try less hard. Stop trying and just be present with what's happening and see how much you can enjoy that.
And allow things to unfold organically.
Allow it to unfold, because it will become an amazing teacher for you, just like life will if you stop trying to control everything all the time. Not that there aren't certain things we need to control. Of course we do, but there's a yin-yang balance.
Aside from what we talked about with sexuality and kind of how to become embodied, how to start feeling more comfortable in ourselves and communicating with a partner, are there other things that you have just found are helpful in when it comes to creating a more embodied sexual self that we haven't necessarily talked about so far?
Well, I think that all the work that you do on yourself, whether it's on your money issues or your career issues, all of this is related. So one thing I say in my book is that everything that is unhealed in you is going to show up in the bedroom. So all of the healing work you do on yourself to get over your trauma, to get over growing up in this culture, every culture probably, all the work you do for yourself is going to help your fully embodied sexual life. Because as you become more and more yourself, it's going to show up it can show up in your sex life if that's something that you want. So one of the secrets is, we're taught that sex is a game for young people and young people's bodies are more attractive and so on. But as you become more fully yourself, you realize, wow, my sexuality is evolving also. And the more I come into my own fullness, the potential is for my sexuality to come into more fullness. One of my Tantra teachers I saw on Instagram, she's 81, and she said, I'm 81 and she's been studying sex and teaching sex all her life. She goes, I'm 81 and new arenas of sensuality are opening to me that I never knew were possible. I'm like, wow, I can't wait to be 81. It's like we have this idea that we are told these lies that men peak sexually at 15 or something and women at 30. It's like, please, that's so immature. Your sexuality is the potential is for it to get better and better and better. And this, I don't know why that's a secret. That should be shouted from the mountaintops that you can be sexier. I think it's because people have an incest taboo and they don't want to think of their parents being sexy. But it's like, as you grow, you can get sexier, more fully embodied, more sensually aware, a better lover. And this is really something to look forward to. It doesn't have to die off with age. But I think since we're told that it does, people kind of give up. And it's like, don't give up. The best is still ahead.
I love that. So how do people find more information about you? If they like what they hear, how can they find out more about you?
I'm pretty hard to miss. I mean, if you go looking for me on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, I'd love if you'd connect with me. I have lots of videos for you for free. My books I purposely priced very cheap, so you can buy them on Instagram. On Amazon. What am I missing? My website. So I would just love if I can help you in any way I can. I have offerings that are free, low priced. You can work with me. My husband and I do couples counseling together. So we would just love to help you in any way we can.
Catherine, thank you so much for taking the time for this fantastic conversation. And I look forward to chatting with you again.
Thanks, Todd. I love the work you're doing too. So thanks for having me as a guest.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.